Hobgoblins and witches and things that go bump in the night.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Evil Dread. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Wyeth.
And this week we are returning after our clusterfuck of a Last Jedi 2017 episode to a semi-regular episode that something like we used to do in the fall.
Now that the semester is about to get
back
into swing.
School starts tomorrow, and I feel like that picture of the little boy with the horse about to eat its head.
Same.
I love that picture.
Here's my thing. I feel like spring semesters are always better.
I agree, because fall semester is just like, no one knows what they're doing. We're having to teach freshmen who have never been in a college before. Football is happening. I hate it.
I'm just excited about the lack of seasonal depression.
I have, like, opposite seasonal depression. So, like, over the summer, I'm like... Like, in the winter, I'm like, I'm a snuggly little bitch. I love it. I'm like, just watching Monster High movies and stuff all day.
I'm just tired of the cold and how it makes my arthritis hurt.
Ew, how old are you?
I don't have arthritis.
Okay. Oh my god. Yeah, we sound, I'm sure we sound like great, fun people to be around right now.
We are, when we make an effort.
Yes, we're excited. We're doing our thing. School's about to start, so that's impending. But today we're talking about some of the best things that we saw or enjoyed over break. Not The Last Jedi. We're done with that. We're done with it.
We have killed that horse.
Can I just say...
Oh.
What? No, I'm not. It's not about The Last Jedi. Okay. I've been like going to sleep to The Force Awakens like 4 nights a week
It's a
lately.
delightful movie.
Okay, it is so much better paced than The Last Jedi.
I'll agree with
It's
that.
like an elegantly paced action adventure movie. Also, they Helmet is better.
Helmet is better?
Mask is
because
better.
It covers up Adam Driver's
No,
mug.
he's just more like scary and like threatening.
He is scary in The Force Awakens until he becomes just a petulant Reddit boy.
I know, but I'm like, that. It's just it's so much more effective. Like, anyway, those are my final.
That was a real postscrict.
Yes,
to
but
last episode.
Force Awakens is a wonderful movie and better than The Last Jedi in my opinion. Just my onion, but in terms of pacing. All right, what are we talking about today?
All right, so you finally saw The Shape of Water.
You act like that's a moral failing on my part. The moral failing is that it's only playing an hour away from me in both directions.
That's true.
So, I went to Tulsa to see it with my mom. We met up because we both wanted to see it really bad. And we had a lovely day in Tulsa, and we saw The Shape of Water, and it was beautiful. And I saw it like a month late from when I expected to see it, so there was a lot build up.
I've been having to keep quiet.
It's not like it's not like a plot spoiler movie.
No,
it's
like I've been wanting to like save all the
Fishman
thoughts and discussions.
Dies or something. No, he doesn't. Like
He doesn't.
It's not. No.
Everyone should see it. And
Yes.
now we're getting to spoilers. I was surprised by the happy ending.
I have some feelings about it. Okay, can we start at the beginning?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hot take number 1. Best character was Fat Man with Cake at bus stop. Loved him.
There was a real sense of kind of whimsy. There's a lot of whimsy in this.
It's beautiful. Okay, this movie is incredibly nice to look at. It's so pretty and so like... It makes Baltimore in the early 60s look like a beautiful little, like, Amelie-style Paris. You know?
When in reality, John Waters is lurking around the corner.
Oh my god! That was, every time the little boy was on screen, I'd turn to my mom and I'm like, that's John Waters. But everything's green and cute, but it's not, like, overly twee, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I like to think of like 2007 to 2011 as like the reign of cutesy twee quirky-liciousness, you know? We had Juno. We had 500 Days of Summer. Everyone talked stupid for no reason. There was some really interesting, weird, visual stuff and ukulele on the soundtrack a lot. It's not that. It could have been in lesser hands. But this is... go ahead.
I was going to say, this feels like a more authentic kind of like homage to like whimsical Paris movies. Like
Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, yeah. And but it isn't so silly and,
it's not
light.
Sweet enough to make you gag.
No, because it has, like, explicit sexuality, explicit violence. So it's really tempered with, like, this is a different kind of sweeter world, but we still experience racism and homophobia and, imperialism.
As always, Guillermo knows his fairy tales, and this is very much an adult fairy tale.
It is. I agree. What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm so stupid.
Well,
Go ahead.
Let's
what do you think?
Work from, The Shape of Water was my favorite movie 2017. But
Get ready for it.
But then the other night, Anna Louise and I saw The Post.
All the President Men's 2 President's Men Harder.
It's actually the prequel.
The Quickening.
It's a prequel to All the President's Men.
All the President's Men 1.5.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But I am a sucker for the ethics of journalism.
Oh my god.
In 2015, I was all about Fury Road until I saw Spotlight.
Okay.
And Spotlight
was
my favorite movie that year.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
And we'll come back to The Post. I'm definitely going to hammer that home in personal picks.
Oh, gosh.
But going back to Shape of Water.
Wait, can we go quickly take a detour to remember Mark Ruffalo's "They can't keep getting away with it"
Iconic.
from Spotlight. He was like, I'm gonna take the message of the film and I'm gonna like throw it at him. Okay. I remembered what I was gonna say.
Yes.
This feels like Shape of Water feels like Guillermo's most fully realized film to me in terms of setting and world building. It feels like a real city, while Pacific Rim was larger in scale. It was very like limited to like the place where like people interacted was limited to like air hangars and stuff like that, and it was very like definitely computer generated Tokyo and stuff like that. And then Crimson Peak is basically a haunted house movie where it's mostly
very
one setting.
Yeah, a lot of his movies feel very isolated.
Yes, but this and it kind of makes those movies like feel like theatrical to me, like a chamber play or something, which is fine. But this one felt much more well-rounded in terms of setting and world building.
I agree.
Just because it felt like a real city and it had its own internal logic and stuff like that.
Like you felt like things were happening around the corner.
Yes, definitely. Like there was a like inner life rather than it just being kind of a sketched out background on which events happen.
Yeah, like in the very beginning of the movie, down the street, a chocolate plant is on fire.
I loved that.
Like there's no connection to the plot, but It's just such a great detail that fleshed out that corner of the world.
Can I just say, I want to live above a 24-hour movie theater with a gay neighbor and we can just eat eggs and watch old TV together.
Listen, I would love that life too.
Okay.
Richard Jenkins is a delight.
Oh my god, he's so good. I was talking to Mom about this and I'm like, I love like that no one knew who he was until like 6 Feet Under. So he like hit 50 and then like hit a stride. And like now he's like the kind of lovable older intellectual dude in all of these movies. I love Richard Jenkins. And he's so funny in this movie, which was really unexpected.
He brings a great dry sense of humor. He's very the grounded foil to Eliza.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so do you want to actually start like, about plot and stuff?
So, Sally Hawkins, who deserves the Oscar.
Oh, I love her.
I'm sorry, Frances, but Sally Hawkins.
Where Frances was angry, Sally Hawkins was very empathetic.
Like, so passionate. And she plays a mute woman, and the amount of emotion that she conveys in like just sign language is beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. So she works at a government plant.
Like a government research plant.
It took me so long to figure out she works nights. I felt really stupid.
It took me a while too to figure out the whole work block. Until
Octavia Spencer was like, I went home and made breakfast for my husband. I'm like, oh, all right, okay.
Octavia Spencer's a delight.
She's great. We need to talk about her reaction to finding out that her best friend is sleeping with the fishman. Because, like, it made sense in the world that Guillermo created, but I don't know if I'd react that way.
Well, anyway. We'll work up to that. So, Eliza and her good friend...
Eliza Esposito, which means orphan, which I never knew. Yeah. Interesting.
So, yeah, Sally Hawkins and Octavia Spencer are both maids, janitors.
Well, they're like cleaning ladies.
Yeah, cleaning ladies at this government research plant. And one day, a special new delivery comes to
Fishman!
It is Doug Jones in another Fishman suit.
What a great year it's been for people named Doug Jones.
It has.
Twin Peaks, Doug Jones of Alabama, Doug Jones Fishman Man. Doug Jones has been my dude since Billy Butcherson in Hocus Pocus, since The Gentleman in Hush episode of Buffy. Wyatt was like, that's a great episode, and being like, it's this one of 2 episodes he's seen, but it is great. Doug Jones is the best, bro. Also, Abe Sapien was kind of hot. He was a cutie.
So you would fuck a fishman?
Of course. If it was Abe Sapien, he's really cute and, like, kind.
He is.
Like, he's very nice.
Jezebel,
this one is kind of scary looking. I'm not a biggest fan of this one.
He's more wild.
Yeah.
Jezebel put out a quiz about if you would bang a fishman. A poll. Did you
I
vote?
didn't click on it because I knew what my answer would be.
There was a lot of different answers.
I just didn't click the link.
I put yes if he uses magic to fix my inner and outer flaws.
Oh my god, what? Okay. No. It's not a fishman's responsibility to fix you. Okay.
But magic.
Just FYI. Yeah, that was an interesting development, but we'll get there. Okay. So, a fishman comes to the plant, and she's like, ooh, this guy is kind of hot.
Hello.
Kind of sexy for a fishman.
Those scales.
Michael Shannon, who plays the exact same person he played in Boardwalk Empire.
So terrifying.
He has cornered the market on
scary conservative men,
upsettingly, like, morally upright, corruptedly Christian government officials who do terrible things. Yeah, his name was like Melvin Purvis in Boardwalk Empire, and I can't believe I pulled that out of my ass because I watched that in like 9th grade. But anyway,
anywho, Michael Shannon is an awful person.
You should definitely look up him shirtless doing Iggy Pop, though.
Oh, I watched it.
That's what he did instead of going to the Golden Globes. And my loins are on fire. It is amazing. I love him.
Every time I see Michael Shannon in anything, in real life or in a movie.
In real life, anytime you run into him and ask him coffee, he's like, Wyeth, good to see you. I'm going to pull off my own fingers.
I always, any picture of him, I respond by hearing the X-Files theme in the back of my head. Pretty much.
X-Files theme and Downton Abbey theme, very similar. Listen to them next to each other. It's very upsetting. Anyway, my favorite Michael Shannon moment is, the one where he said, he's talking about politics and old people who vote conservative, and he said, time for the urn. That was amazing. Like, in an interview, he's like, time for the urn for some of these people. Like,
I mean, shit. Fair.
Or when he wore a pin that just said no to the Academy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, no what? And he's like, just no. Not into it.
Anyway.
I love him so. Also, there is a movie on Netflix that we need to watch about a small Canadian town where Michael Shannon stars, and he is, for some reason, running around the woods in like a fursuit at some point, and then he becomes like a local cryptid. He has to keep it up or something.
Okay.
So we should watch that, whatever that is. Anyway, go on.
So as the fishman comes to reside in the government plant, Eliza begins to bond with it through mutual
musicals
and hard-boiled eggs.
That movie made me want to eat an egg and find a loving companion, but mostly eat an egg. Yes, there's a lot of eggs consumed. When she cracked that egg and just like cracked it open like halfway, like completely, Mom was like, "That never happens." It's true. It's
true.
Except in this world. A world where fishmen, you can crack a hard-boiled egg.
Or maybe Sally Hawkins is just some egg-cracking prodigy.
I guess. Can we talk about her background in the movie?
Yes.
So, they say that she was found as, like, a baby at a wharf or something.
She was found on, like, riverbanks.
Yes. And she has scars on either side of her neck. Which, when they showed that immediately, I was like, is she already getting that fish stick? Because, you know, I'm like, it may just be, like, really, you know, passionate.
Like, claw marks?
Yes.
Sex marks?
Yeah, so I was like, oh, are we starting, like, in the middle? And then gonna go back?
I called it from the moment I saw those.
Oh, my God. Okay, that's the part of the movie I have a problem with.
Oh, no!
But, okay, so she, is completely mute. Like her, I guess, voice box has been severed or whatever by those marks. Anyway, so she has a very like mysterious past kind of thing going on. She bonds with her neighbor Richard Jenkins, who is an amazing middle-aged gay artist.
I love that
so
everyone learns sign language
for her. I know, I love it. Yes, and I liked that they kind of I was telling my mom a lesser writer would have been like, this is my neighbor, he's gay, he's Richard Jenkins, you know, but you get it in a way that's very natural and not like expositionary. Yes, it's
shown through action rather than info dumping.
Yes, exactly. I love the pie shop, even though it's really gross. I love all that. All the pies look incredibly pretty, and there's a lot of Jell-O in this movie.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a lot of Jell-O.
Maybe the 60s were just a time of Jell-O.
They were like, Jell-O's the future.
The future food.
Yes. There's a lot about the future. So Eliza gets closer and closer with the fishman, and she sees Michael Shannon torturing him because he's a sadist.
And Michael Shannon had his fingers bit off.
That was awesome. I loved it. Like, right at the beginning. And throughout the movie, like, he has them sewn back on, but it's like, you can tell his sanity and his grasp on his own kind of twisted moral code is rotting as they rot off.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's like you can track like the deterioration of his character through how black his fingers are right now, which is so scary.
Yeah, his fingers do not retake to their own body.
They turn black. There's pus involved. I didn't look at that because it was freaking me out.
It was a real Brundlefly moment.
I hate that. I hate it. What else happens? Halfway through the movie, there's a great escape.
Yeah, I expected that to be the climax.
The end! I know. I was like, this is paced kind of weird. Okay, well, like, halfway through the movie, we have the big action set piece. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Where Eliza, Zelda, and a Russian spy.
I love Michael Stuhlbarg. Can we talk about, like... I saw this post, and it was... the post. But it was, like... the dad from Lady Bird, the dad from Call Me By Your Name, and... what is It's like Dad from Lady Bird, Dad from Call Me By Your Name, and Dad from another movie, this Oscar race, are all in the post. A family can be 3 dads and Meryl Streep. There's so many overlapping...
Oh my god, yeah.
...actors in this. Like, Tracy Letts is in everything. Michael Stuhlbarg is in everything. Lucas Hedges is in everything. Timothy Chalamet is in everything. It's really like there are like 10 actors who were in all of the Best Picture nominees.
Basically, this year is just Charlie Day standing in front of a wall.
What?
With red yarn.
Oh my god. You overused that reference so much for someone who has never watched Always Sunny in their life.
You're welcome.
I'm not grateful. Anyway, so they stage a great escape. It's really cool. It almost goes wrong a few times. I liked when they used, it was an Israeli something popper to like cut the electricity. Michael Stuhlbarg got it, and then after this, Michael Shannon grabs the device, sniffs it, and says Israeli. I'm like, okay, I can identify things and their country of origin just through their scent.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good. So Fishman goes home with Eliza. They get it on.
They do. There's a lot of sex in this movie.
Mm-hmm. It's not explicit. It's not like you see the P go in the V or anything. But it's there's a lot of naked Sally Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
She's very cute. She got a nice little booty. I don't know. In the middle of it, I'm like... I went into this movie being like, I am down for weird romance. I'm down for it. I know what the premise of this movie is. I know that they engage sexually. But then, like, I don't know. There were moments where I was like, this is a little too weird for me. This is very odd.
Well, not all of us are cowards.
Shut up. I enjoyed it. I was just like, all right, this is... I just kept picturing Guillermo pitching it to a room full of men in suits. Give me $100 million. A fishman, he fall in love with a woman.
100 million? This was under 20 million.
Okay, give me multiple $1 million because of this or whatever.
What?
Anyway, you tell some of the plot.
Let's talk about the sex. Let's get into the sex. And I think the most disgusting scene was Michael Shannon and his wife.
Ew! Oh my god. Michael Shannon has, like, the perfect nuclear, like, Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best family. And I think Guillermo did that on purpose because he was like, this is really how sociopathic you had to be, like, the patriarch in this imaginary perfect family. You had to, like, you know, like, everything may be fine and beautiful on TV, and then, but she doesn't get to say anything during sex, and he kind of, like, chokes her, and...
and wipes his bloody hand all over her face.
Yeah, it's really upsetting. Like, the traditional nuclear family sex is really dark and frightening, but the sex between the, like, 2 marginalized figures is very genuine and kind.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's so much a commentary about the nuclear family itself, and it's just bad people corrupt anything.
I mean, I think it's a pointed gesture to, like, place it in that era. So agree to disagree, I guess. But, yeah, can we just say that you could not fill a bathroom with water up to the ceiling and expect your floor to survive?
That was my favorite scene, but it's also a very stressful scene.
I know, I'm like, girl, your tile is already really cracked. You're living in... This building does not have a lot of structural integrity.
So, in one scene, Eliza fills up her bathroom with water and swims around with the fishman.
It was very nice.
It was a very beautiful scene. But
it starts raining in the movie theater.
It's
below.
leaking, and the whole time I'm stressing out about property damage.
Me too, honestly. And then Richard Jenkins has to be like, "Hey, quit having sex." like in the swimming pool you made out of your bathroom, because our landlord is angry. So fishman stays with her for a while. The noose is tightening around the Russian guy, Michael Stuhlbarg, who's the greatest dad in all of movie history, and Call Me By Your Name. The the police chief from Justified, is the like general in this movie, who's like, you're terrible, Michael Shannon, and you can't do anything right. You lost the asset. You're gonna live in shit town, or whatever he said. So Michael Shannon's feeling pressure from the higher ups to get this thing back, because they need to either vivisect it or kill it. And it's all has something to do with the space race.
Well, as long as the Russians don't have it.
But they're like, oh, he has 2 different breathing apparatuses, like, in his body. So, and then we can figure out how to make astronauts. I don't know. That part is not really great. So she has to release him at some point, because he can't really survive in her tiny bathtub. So she makes a date. It was like October 12th or something, because it's going to rain a lot. She's going to go down to the docks and kind of just let him do his thing. Because this isn't Baltimore, so it's like, is a city on a bay and all that. Michael Shannon gets wind of this. Things go awry.
Michael Shannon kills a bunch of Russians.
That was a cool scene, dude.
Pokes a finger through a guy's cheek.
Loved that. Yeah, Michael Stuhlbarg gets shot somehow. I guess he was screaming when this happened. Bullet goes in one cheek and out the other. Michael Shannon hooks his finger through one cheek and, like, not unlike a fish, drags him across the ground. That was great. That was a great scene.
I felt so bad for Dimitri.
I'm not saying I enjoyed it. You know, like, I'm not saying I'm like, yeah, get him. It was more like, this is a good scene. This is really inventive use of violence, you know? No, he was great, and he was very empathetic to Eliza and, like, helped them get Fishman out of there and all that. Throughout this time, Michael Shannon's hand is disintegrating.
Oh, it's fully, like, his 2 fingers have, like, hardened.
They're
into
black
sticks.
And they smell bad, which is the worst thing to ever say about anything. I hate imagining that. And so he goes and sees Zelda, Octavia Spencer. We skipped when she was like, "You get it on with that fish, man," and Sally Hawkins like nod, and she. So
we're winding back. So while the fishman is hiding out at Eliza's bathtub, they
eating cats.
That was very disturbing to me. She and Octavia Spencer have to play cool and keep going to work. And one day, Sally Hawkins is given that smile where the sex smile.
She's wearing a red coat, which there's a tweet by Guillermo we should find. It's someone asked him the symbolism of the colors, and he said green is the future and modernity. Blue is Eliza and the sea and, you know, the fishman and all that. Red is sex and cinema and love. So
that's why the cinema below the apartments is all red.
Yes.
Well, anyway, Sally Hawkins is wearing that sex smile, and Octavia Spencer notices it, and is like, how?
Yeah, and then she explains, which we talked about in our last Jedi episode. And instead of being like, wow, you're a furry, I guess.
What?
Instead of being like, you know, reasonably shocked like any person would, she goes, "Ain't that like a man?" And I'm like, okay. All right, cool.
If only we can all be
Ain't that like a man.
If only we can all be as accepting as Zelda.
So, Michael Shannon goes to Zelda's house, intimidates her, rips off his own fingers and throws them under her TV. Her really shitty husband is like, "I know, it's the mute girl," and all that. So he goes to the docks. Second climax of the movie. The final one. Explain.
So Fishman and Eliza are saying their tearful goodbyes. She says she can't go with him, and Michael Shannon shows up, knocks out Richard Jenkins, and shoots the Fishman and Eliza.
So she gets a gut shot. Fishman gets a chest shot. It has been established that Fishman can heal wounds and make people's hair grow with his bioluminescent superpowers, I guess. Mm-hmm. Also, it's been established that in the Amazon, where they found him, he was worshipped as a god amongst the people. And so Fishman heals himself, goes over there to Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon says, "I guess you are a god," and then gets his throat ripped out, which was poetic cinema, because now he can't speak.
Oh, that's true.
Yes. So, before we get to the very, very end, we didn't talk about the ballroom dance.
Oh yeah, there's a musical number.
It's very, very beautiful.
Oh, so beautiful.
I loved it. My mom wasn't totally sold on it, but I think it was like kind of positioning this love story in the pantheon of like Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire movies, like classical Hollywood. Like, we're taking that narrative and making it, and we're reversing it and making it into something that's more focused on like outsiders. Rather than, you know, the beautiful people, heterosexual, you know, like the classic romance that they watch on TV all the time.
It was also a great look at the inner workings of Eliza, because musicals, even though she herself is silent, music is just such an important way, like it's part of a way of expressing herself in her music selection and in her dancing, which we see from her playing music to the Fishman in the lab, and
they dance together,
and her time spent with Richard Jenkins watching musicals. And so her musical number to me was just a great look at, like, here's how she pictures herself and the Fishman.
Yes,
old Greg.
I thought it was interesting. Guillermo has come out and talked about how in all of these classic monster movies, the figure of like goodness and heroism is usually a ultra-masculine white guy. And I love how in this it flips the script so beautifully, where, and at the beginning, it's like the monster that tried to tear them apart is what Richard Jenkins says. So clearly the monster in this movie is Michael Shannon.
Yes.
It's never even remotely the Fishman. So Michael Shannon is taking this, like, figure that has always been revered and kind of uncritically seen as the ideal image of heroism in these older movies. Like, that he saves the woman from the creature from the Black Lagoon. You know, he burns down Dracula's castle or whatever. Yeah. But now it's exposing him for what he is, which is really kind of an agent of a corrupt state. Someone who, like, idealizes whiteness and masculinity and heterosexuality in a way that's really toxic. Right. So Michael Shannon gets his throat ripped out. It's rad. All the cops come and do nothing. Yeah. Also, Zelda is there for some reason. I would just imagine the cops would be like, "Hey, what the fuck? Like, don't go up there. We are all training our guns on this thing," which is, you know, something that no one has ever seen before. I felt like there would be much more like pandemonium, but basically they allow the Fishman to pick up Eliza, and they jumped into the bay together, and it's the beautiful shot from the poster where she's in her red coat and her shoe is falling off and he's kind of swimming and dancing around her. He gives her a big old kiss. Mom said he had Tom Hardy lips. He had big old lips. Big luscious.
Yep, because when I think of Tom Hardy,
that's what she says that all the time. We'll watch like Inception. She's like, God, he got big old lips. And,
well, now I'm going to be looking for that.
Yeah, Dunkirk, starring Tom Hardy's lips. But anyway, so Fishman kisses her. He goes all bioluminescent, so you know some magic's working. I'm going to let you talk about this part, because this is the part that I was like...
And
Okay.
the scars on Eliza's throat are revealed to be gills,
Yes.
which I saw coming.
I felt like I definitely got the symbolism. I didn't think it would go that far and become that literal, I guess.
Well, because when they hinted like, oh, she was found on a riverbanks, I'm
yeah.
like, that seems like a very fairy tale beginning.
It does. I mean, so they go and they live happily ever after,
Yeah.
I guess, and she can breathe underwater and all that. I get the really heavy, like, Little Mermaid vibes,
Mhm.
where it's like the princess with no voice, and she's actually returned to the sea where she is from originally, and all that. I don't know. I feel like it's just, that was where it became kind of silly to me and, like, corny.
What?
I expected him to, like, put his hand on her stomach and, like, heal her, and then, like, go off and do his thing. And I know that would be a very different ending.
That's also corny.
I don't think it's as corny as, like, making her have gills. I don't know. I think it made me realize my cynicism as a viewer, because I'm like, oh, this is silly. This is, like, childish kind of. But, like, I think it's challenging you to look at things with a more, like, pure empathetic view than you usually would these kinds of films. So I think it was, I don't know, I still don't know how I really feel about it, but, like, it made me wonder why I thought it was corny more than anything.
Okay.
I thought it was a beautiful ending. Tyler, I talked to Tyler about it. He thinks that everything was kind of, may have not really happened after Michael Shannon shoots everybody. He thinks that's the fairy tale version of the ending and not what really happened.
Well, that's bleak.
I know, and I was like, damn, okay, I didn't think about that. But and he's like, that's why it's so heightened and kind of silly. And
That doesn't, I don't know. Because this whole movie, Guillermo has gone on record saying, like, this is kind of like a stance against cynicism and
yes,
the darkness of
yeah.
our present times. And I don't see such a bleak ending as fitting with that purpose.
Well, I don't think, it certainly isn't explicit, but I guess you can interpret it like that because Tyler did. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I certainly didn't see that. But it's an interesting way to approach something like that. Yeah, I, like, wasn't mad at Guillermo for the ending. I was like, that's a little silly, but I mean, it made me reflect on, like, why I'm so reticent to kind of, like, give myself over fully to these kinds of fairy tale-esque stories, I guess. But overall, I thought it was incredibly beautiful, very emotional.
Did it make your heart feel full?
Yes, multiple times. I think the only time I cried was when she was kind of pleading to Richard Jenkins.
Such good acting.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I think I want to live in that world is my biggest takeaway, where it's so, like, the oppression is certainly real and present, but it shows kind of the whimsy and positivity and beauty you find despite of it in these communities. Also, I heard someone propose the question that, like, is it really so revolutionary to have a woman protagonist who doesn't speak? And, like, that's a bit, like, there's kind of problems there.
I've
just
seen
with that
some
concept.
push. It's like what we talked about last time with
Uh-huh.
the far left.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, what people have responded with is because I see that criticism, but also, I think Octavia Spencer was asked that question, and she was like, well, the only people who can speak for her in this movie are a black woman and a gay man who in that time had no social voice or power. Yeah. So it's really, like, empowering them and not disempowering her. Also, it's, like, so clearly tied to the Little Mermaid story, which
And
she doesn't have a voice in that.
And how often do we see people with disabilities portrayed with such empathy?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Especially muteness. That's not something you see very often. And it really shows like how Michael Shannon treats her is super telling, because there is a scene where he threatens her sexually, like kind of comes on to her, but in a way that's like clearly meant to be like, you can't beat me, like I have more power than you, I can do whatever I want to do. I'm turned on by
how you can't speak out against me.
Yes, and he's like, and he knows that she won't be able to, were something like that to happen, she won't be able to report it, and nothing would happen because she's in such a marginalized position, and that he is so powerful. So she's kind of, to him, like the perfect woman who can't talk back to him, who can't, tell on him and all that. But I love the scene where she, like, signs "fuck you," and he doesn't know what it means. And so it really shows that she has the power to, like, question authority in a way where, not traditionally, where they wouldn't understand necessarily that she's questioning them, but yeah. Other things. Fat man with cake. I loved it.
That was a great little moment. That man was going off somewhere into the night with cake and balloons.
Oh, loved it. I felt like that was Guillermo.
Insert for the director.
Yes. Did you think that the window seat on the bus scene was really her controlling that water, or was that... I think looking back it was... But during the scene, I was like, oh, this is kind of her, not to compare it to something so different as Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, but you know that the songs are, like, heightened. The songs are, like, her vision of the world. So I was like, oh, this is her kind of seeing the world in a more magical way.
Right, but the only time we get that is the actual musical number. But I think the longer she spent with the fishman, the more his powers she started to absorb also. Okay, that's my theory.
Interesting. It was such a good movie. It was so really beautiful. It's definitely... I love Crimson Peak so much just because it caters to my love of, like, gothic romance and stuff like that. But I think this is Guillermo's most, like, technically beautiful, biggest feeling, most emotional movie.
This is probably my favorite Guillermo movie.
Well, I think... And he talks about this. You should listen to the Crimson Peak commentary. Not most of the time commentaries are kind of like, oh, and I did this shot because I'm so far up my own ass, blah blah blah. But he talks about color so much and symbolism so much. He's really such a visual storyteller that I think sometimes his scripts are deemed really oversimplistic. Like Crimson Peak, for sure, like the big twist was kind of like, okay,
so it's all coming,
like it's not really a mystery so much as like a storybook that's more about the illustrations than the narrative. But I think this is one of the times where his narrative was equally strong.
Where it matches the strength of his visual eye.
Yes.
His Golden Globe speech wrecked me.
I was there.
As you were there, you saw me just burst open in tears. When he said, "Monsters saved me." Yes. I was like, yep, going into Waterworks. We got the Waterworks open.
Some of his quotes lately have been so beautiful and amazing. Like, it was something like, some people have Jesus, I have Frankenstein, and that's what I base my life off of. And then emotion is the new punk is something I love.
Oh my god. I love that.
Because I think it's so... in horror and sci-fi and all of these kind of edgier genres, I think it's like empathy and compassion have kind of been sidelined through historically the narratives of those genres. Yeah. It's like you don't feel bad for the monster, you don't feel bad for the killer, all of this stuff, and you kind of sacrifice all of those more genuine feelings to be scary or edgy or like cynical in those genres. But I think he really exposes how those genres can actually be the most compassionate.
Like Patty Jenkins had a great quote about during the production of Wonder Woman, where like she really promoted empathy, and kindness. These weren't things that were considered cheesy on set.
Yes.
And that was like, and you see that in the movie. Like,
Totally.
It's a very emphatic movie.
And I think that's genre right now. I think something happened around, I don't know, maybe 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, where it became dark and edgy, and that was the thing to do. Like the
Dark Knight.
DC universe, it's very gritty realism. There's no happy endings because that's not realistic. All of this stuff. Where I think
people took the wrong lessons from Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Yes, so we get shit like Justice League and Batman versus Superman and all that stuff. And those are the biggest genre movies, and they're so despairing and like dark and like
no fun.
Visually dark too. Like almost in black and white sometimes. And it really just sucks all of the magic out of these magical worlds.
And these people who are supposed to be larger than life heroes.
It makes them, it's like, but what if Batman was mean?
What if Batman branded people with a hot iron batarang?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see
He does that. He tortures.
In what?
In Batman vs. Superman, it's revealed that he tortures criminals.
That's why I didn't see that.
He kills people with machine guns.
See, but it's just, I think Guillermo's very conscious of the fact that like the cinema of attractions and cinema should be escapist and kind of show different possible worlds that are maybe better than our own, which I think accounts for a lot of his fascination with like 40s and 50s Hollywood, because that was very much about showing spectacle and musical numbers and escapist entertainment.
Yeah. It's funny that Guillermo was actually offered the Dark Justice League movie.
Yes, I know.
I would love that because Swamp Thing has always been one of my favorite heroes.
Well, I feel like this sorry. That was gross. I just had some snot in my face. This monster, the fishman, is kind of like Creature from the Black Lagoon plus Swamp Thing. It's Yes.
It's not from a dark corner of the environment.
Yeah. And Guillermo has talked a lot about like his own political and kind of environmental ideas. And so I think that was very much in line with that, because the figure of like the, representation of the American government and masculinity and power is very much about like drilling in the Amazon and destroying the environment, stuff like that. So I think this is a movie where the environment and women and love and positivity and acceptance science.
Dimitri, the character Dimitri, is a very science positive character, and he was probably, if I had to be one character, I would have been him.
Okay. I would have been Fat Man with cake. No, but he was, and it really, I think I was listening to the Pan's Labyrinth commentary when I was really young, and he was like, I don't believe in borders, and that really stuck with me. So I think his kind of portrayal of the nuclear arms race and the Cold War sentiments was very much like, these are two corrupt governments who are, their agents are not working on their own behalf, stuff like that. So I loved seeing his Russian spy kind of go rogue and just be like, I'm gonna stick to my individualist ideas about what's right and wrong.
Such a good movie.
It was really good. I really loved it.
If only it was actually playing everywhere.
Oh my god. I shouldn't have to drive an hour to see good movies. Like, I know that's just how it works and all that, but the current model is really upsetting. And I think, like, straight to VOD and stuff like that is awesome, and iTunes rentals are awesome, but something like Shape of Water should be seen on such a large scale to appreciate the beauty of it, because it's about like love of cinema and classic cinema and
It's,
gathering like people together
it
to
feels
enjoy.
so good on a big screen.
Yeah, it was incredibly gorgeous to see. Yeah. Anything else about Shape of Water?
I mean, theoretically, I could go on.
Yeah.
But for the sake...
I mean, we've covered a lot of...
we covered a good amount, since we don't want to pull another 3-hour podcast.
I mean, we could if we want to.
It's
There's
true.
like I don't know if our listeners would really care, but I know I listen to podcasts and I'm like 35 minutes, done. I'm over it. Turn it off. No, I'm in the middle of listening to the RoboCop Blank Check, which is like 2.5 hours long. So what's next?
Well, we played a little game called Doki Doki Literature Club, which has gone viral as of late.
I mean, I'd never heard of it, but I
But
trust
how often
you.
do you hang out in like video game circles?
Never.
Yeah.
A little bit of
So-
Monica in my life. A
Jesus
little bit of
Christ.
Yuri. Can you explain the basic plot while I go to the bathroom?
Yes. So it's what's known as a dating simulator, which is usually which is in my opinion always a creepy game genre because it's always revolves around high school or anime girls in high school, and it's just creepy. And now this time it's still creepy, but with the addition of evil. Like this game gets very dark, not very quick. So the general plot is you are just a kind of a blank protagonist, main character, and you find yourself kind of going along for the ride and joining a club at Anime High. That's what I'll call it, Anime High. And it's you, a guy, and 4 girls of just very...
I had to pee. So you've explained what a dating sim is and how creepy that concept is?
I didn't get into... So the concept is you are a creepy guy who likes to date anime women.
It's like a role-playing game, kind of. It's
Mhm.
like a big genre in Japan. It kind of had a blip of success over here with Dream Daddy, which looked fun.
It's kind of a subversion of...
Yeah, but usually it's like you're kind of a faceless guy and you put in your own name, and it's like, I go to the school in Japan and here are all these girls and
They're all interested in me.
yeah, and they're all in schoolgirl uniforms and they all are different, like there are a bunch of like character archetypes in like anime.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all fulfill, like, I'm the quiet and shy girl. I'm the mean girl who's only mean because I hide my feelings for you. I'm the happy girl who does, like, peace signs all the time.
Yep.
Like, it's really gross, and their boobs in this game
Can
is
we
wild.
agree that as a society we should stop, like, sexualizing anything, like, outfits that indicate, like, high school?
You know, I think that's the easiest thing to agree on for me.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's really gross.
I think, yeah, we as a society should stop fetishizing schoolgirls.
I have weird feelings about anime. Like the Castlevania one, pretty good. You know, I liked
It
it.
was fun.
I think I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, and Coin was in Naruto for a long time. That shit was gay though. I liked Dragon Ball Z. I liked all that Sailor Moon. Loved it growing up. But like, I think the particular brand of like American dude who is like obsessed with fetishizing Japanese culture, and because it's so sexualized,
The neckbeard Redditors.
and it's they buy like waifu pillows.
Yep.
I got a waifu pillow right here. That's all I need.
It's your sexy fishman.
I do have a fish body pillow. I'm living in the shape of water.
The shape of water too.
Yes. Anyway, I do want a waifu pillow though, but like, I don't know, with like David Harbour on it or something.
I think it should be Frasier.
Yes! I really want that Branson Reese shirt where it's Niles, but anime style. I want it. Anyway, so anime freaks me out. Anytime I see any, like, anime drawing on the internet, I, like, try to see what is fetish about it and, like, why anyone would want to jerk off to it. Because I feel like all of it is. You know?
That's kind of a sweeping generalization.
No, I'm just saying, like, people who draw, like, anime fan art and shit like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know,
like, yeah,
anytime I see,
brand.
like, anime drawn images on my Tumblr dash, I'm like, huh. And then I'm like, this is probably some fetish. I don't like it.
I'm very picky about my anime.
Okay.
As in,
right.
I don't like things that involve high school because it tends to be creepy.
I tried to watch my friend was like, oh, Uran High School Host Club is good. And I'm like, okay.
There's a lot of red flag words in that
I don't know.
title
I was
for
like,
me.
sure, okay. And I tried to watch it, and there are twins who are heavily sexually tensionized. So I'm like, so we're going with some light incest right off the bat? No,
Nope.
thank you.
Nope.
I do not get, not to criticize Japanese culture in any way, I just do not understand the sexual politics, and it really leaves bad taste in my mouth most of the time.
Same.
Yeah. So Doki Doki.
It is a dating sim, but also
A horror game.
deeply horrifying.
However, the hour and a half that we played together
Was just dating
was just
sim.
a dating sim, which was a little uncomfortable for me.
Very uncomfortable sitting next to you playing that. And it was just as uncomfortable sitting alone and playing it.
And it was like, it was very classic dating sim where like they all are like in these really provocative poses, and like some girls have like huge tits and so, like, but all of their jackets are like too tight.
Gravity defying
It's
physics.
insane. And like, all you do is talk about poetry, which I'm sure was why it's a dream.
Nope.
You read each other's poetry, and then you decide which girl you want to read your poetry first. And it got to the point where we're just like sitting on my couch doing like, just have Sayori read it. Just not her. Do Yuri next, I guess. You don't want that one liking you too much because she's weird.
And at some point, the poems start to include
They like get a little scary.
like they start talking about like the dark eye or something.
Yeah, it gets a little like spooky.
But they also start including like HTML instructions.
Yes.
Like,
load more.
Read me file.
Yes. At the end of there was one at the end that said delete her.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, ah! Oh my god. Okay, so basically we played an hour and a half of this where nothing
happened.
Scary was happening, and I was like, I don't want to. When is something gonna get scary?
So Lynn looks up the game on Wikipedia and screams.
Mm-hmm. So I found out the twist, which we were still like an hour away from the twist,
Mhm.
bro.
And
I'm just not patient with things like if it was if it was like a fun game to play, I would have played like 2 more hours, you know. But if I'm only playing for horror, it was like a long time to get to the horror, you know, until like while it was just poetry based dating simulator.
Yeah. So she was screaming, and I refused to look up spoilers, so I had to play the rest of the game by myself.
He thinks he's better than me, which he probably is, but I just really did not really care about like spoiling myself.
But so I played it by myself this morning.
I watched a playthrough in the bathtub.
And it ends in a character's suicide, and I was just like, well, not what I was expecting.
Wait, did you not finish the game?
I know you're supposed to keep playing it, but I didn't. I was
what?
like, no, I was so freaked out. I played
Dude, he's only like 3 hours in. It's like a 5-hour game.
I know.
What the fuck?
And then I spoiled it for myself because I got scared. So the whole game, the characters are building up to a festival.
Mm-hmm.
And I was expecting a Wicker Man.
Yeah, we were thinking cult. We were very wrong.
Yeah.
Or like possession, or like demonic.
I thought that the male bland protagonist player was going to be sacrificed.
I would have loved that.
I would have been okay with that.
No.
It's worse.
Okay, so now I'm gonna have to, like, explain to you what I saw. So your girl Sayori, who is like your childhood best friend,
the girl next door.
She keeps getting more like resigned and kind of reclusive and stuff. Like, she's very like bubbly and positive and sweet and all that
At the beginning, yeah.
And then you go over to her house and she's like, turns out I have severe depression and I always have. And you're like, okay. And then you can be like, we're always going to be friends, or I love you. You can pick that. And the guy I watched the playthrough through said, I love you.
That's what I said.
But then she's like, I love you too, but I still don't feel better. You know, she's like, I don't feel better. Mm-hmm. And so next day you go to the festival or whatever, and she's not there. So you go to her house and she's hanged herself.
Yes. And the whole time, and when you discover her body, your character says, if only this was a video game where I could reload a save. I was like, what? What was it supposed to save?
Well, and it starts glitching.
Mm-hmm. And so the game ends and the title menu comes up, and the title menu has all the girls, but this time Sayori is like glitched out.
And every time they say her name, it's like it's just a bunch of letters and stuff. It's really scary. And then so that's where you stopped?
That's where I stopped. And then I read online that one playthrough is just a fraction of the real game. And so you have to play it again, and
yes, it is.
Sayori is glitched out.
Yes, and the second time you get it with Yuri. And Yuri starts getting more and more intense and obsessive, and it's glitching pretty hard at this point. And at one point, you hear someone and you see her and she has a knife and her arm is cut up incredibly violently, right, and it's all bleeding. Or they'll like glitch out while what's her name? Natsuki? Something like that?
Something like that.
Anyway, the little mean one is saying stuff, and then it'll glitch out to like a much worse graphics, kind of like 8-bit Yuri, and it's like, no one would even care if she killed herself. And then like she'll be talking like in the normal way with just the kind of static image and the talking, and one eye will be bleeding. Jesus. And so it gets worse and worse and worse. Yuri confesses her love to you, and then she stabs herself in front of you 1 billion times. You are stuck in the classroom with her for a weekend, and that's the screenshot I sent you, with her corpse. Natsuki comes in on Monday, promptly vomits everywhere, and then leaves. And then Monika's like, hey, what's up? I know this is a game, and I made Sayori more depressed, and I made Yuri more obsessive, so you wouldn't like them, and you'd like me. And it didn't work, but then I just deleted their character files, so I can do that. And then it'll get to the point where it'll be like, who do you want to choose, Natsuki or Monika? And then you can't hit Natsuki. And then it's just Monika. And then you're like, the only thing you can click is okay, or something like that. Or yes, or okay. And then at one point, this is like, there's an hour of the game left, Monika kind of dissolves everything, and you are in a room with Monika, and she's staring right at you, and she's like, I know this is a game. I don't even love the you were playing in the game. I love you, the person playing it. And she's like, it was easy. I just went in, deleted all their files. You're playing on Steam, so, you can go in and do this, and here's all the ways to do it. And then the guy who was playing was obviously recording it, and she's like, that's a little rude, don't you think, to be recording me without my consent?
Holy
hey,
shit!
Everybody.
What?
She's like, hi, everyone watching, I'm Monika.
Oh my god!
It's really scary. So basically, you were she'll keep talking to you as long as you go, until you go into the game's like properties and delete her file. And then she'll be like, "What are you doing? It hurts. Oh my god. And it's just like glitched out and all that. Then it starts over with Natsuki, Yuri, Sayori.
And
no
Sayori's in charge.
And now Sayori is the president. And she's like, "I know so much more now that I'm president. I think it should just be you and me now." And then it like glitches out and the text is from Monica, who you can't see. She's like, "Not gonna let this happen again." And she like destroys the code some more. It's scary.
There's another ending. Like, that's one ending, but there's one. The secret ending is like, if you like saved and reloaded at certain points, you'll get to the end where Sayori's in charge, but she will have realized what happened all along. That I think if you save at certain choices and reload to go back to make better choices each time, Sayori acknowledges that, like, "Oh, you were trying to be kind to us all along. We're sorry for causing you pain," and deletes the game.
Interesting. So you were like, "I finished the game." I'm like, "Oh, so you got all of that?" Like, apparently
nope.
not.
Nope.
Apparently you're like 3 hours away from the end.
Yep.
But yeah.
It's very clever execution.
The pacing was really messed up. I did not care. I would not have continued at all. Give me like half an hour of poetry bullshit. Not 2 hours.
It kind of reminded me of a movie on my I'm never going to watch because I'm too scared to watch list. Did you ever see Audition?
Yeah, I saw it in a class.
Oh, wow.
Upsetting.
Yeah. This felt like that in terms of just pacing. Because I know, like, nothing happens for the longest time in Audition.
No. That one's much more... I don't know. I was cool with Audition because I was interested in what would happen. This one I was like, this feels fake. This feels like someone just told me it was a horror game, and it's really not. And I'm just going to play through like 5 hours of Dating Simulator. I think it... Yeah. And I read a review and it was like, sometimes this feels like a slog because you're just talking about other people's poetry for a long ass time before anything scary happens. So I would have cut like an hour of that. And then it would have been...
I kind of think it needs that, like, slog, because then, but especially for someone who has no clue what's going to happen, the twist is just that much more surprising.
What are your thoughts on it, I guess, overall?
I would recommend it to someone who wants, like, who likes scary games, but also something that's definitely not, like, this doesn't feel like any other horror game.
It's not Silent Hill.
No.
It's very... At the beginning, it has a disclaimer that says, "Not for children or those who are easily disturbed." And then we just talk about cupcakes for 2 hours.
Yeah. It feels kind of like a game version of a creepypasta.
Yeah, definitely. Like Squidward's Suicide or something. I'd like to play a game of Squidward's Suicide.
What?
That'd be fine. Have you not heard of that?
I've not heard of it.
Look it up, bro. It's frightening. But, yeah, I thought it was effective and, like, scary, but I don't know. I did a lot of fast forwarding. So, yeah. It's an interesting game.
It was a good experience. In that we tried it.
Yes.
I don't think I'll touch it again.
Just watch a playthrough, I guess.
Maybe. We'll see.
I was just like, when's something scary gonna happen? When's something scary? Oh, her eye's bleeding. That's fun. Okay. Alright, so Doki Doki Literature Club.
That was an experience.
I mean, go try it, I guess. Feel free to fast forward, though, on the first part. Personal picks.
You have the biggest personal pick this week.
I want you to go first, though.
Let's see. I played another game over break, Oxenfree. It is about a group of teens who, as like kind of a reunion party, they have a beach bonfire on a deserted island.
Okay. Stupid.
It's up in Oregon or Washington, one of those.
The Pac Norway.
Mm-hmm. And there are ghosts.
Okay.
It's just such a great game. Like, all the kids feel so well written. No kids, like, even the kids who are annoying, the annoying feels like part of the character and not just like, oh, some middle-aged man is trying to write like a teenage girl.
You mean like in Until Dawn?
Yeah. But I feel like that was more knowing the tropes.
It was because the writing in that game was so goofy. The dialogue was insane.
Mm-hmm. But Oxenfree is genuinely creepy. It has a great art direction. Like, a lot of the colors are very vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
It makes great use of a in-game portable radio that is terrifying.
Okay.
That you can use it to detect signals from other dimensions.
Wow. That sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds better than Doki Doki Literature.
It is. It is by far. I'll bring it over sometime and we can give further thoughts.
Cool beans.
It's great.
Anything else?
I do. The Post. I'm just going to talk about The Post, which I was not expecting it to be my favorite movie of 2017, but it is. I'm revising. I know you're making that face where someone's talking about something that you could care less. You couldn't care less about, but I'm going to talk about it. It's so well done. It's very timely, and I just found myself like angry in a good way.
Okay. I like journalism movies.
What?
I do.
Earlier you said you found them boring.
No, it looks... I just thought from the trailer it looked boring. Like, visually it looked boring.
Well, I can report, thankfully
Okay.
it's not. It's very lively. It's way shorter than I expected. It's under 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weirdest episode of Mr. Show.
Yes! Bobby! Bob
and David both share ample screen time.
With guest star Meryl Streep.
And Tom, yeah. It kind of ties in. My feelings about it kind of tie in back into how you talked about like acknowledging your own cynicism.
Okay.
Because the movie, there are moments where I'm like, this is kind of preachy, but then part of me is like, why do you find it preachy? This is a good message.
Do you think... Because they were talking about it on Blank Check.
Mm-hmm.
One, I found it interesting that basically Spielberg found the script while he was in post-production on Ready Player One and shot it in like a month.
Yeah. The whole production for The Post is under 2 months, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm. So, like, do you think... I don't know if it's going to make money, is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think its timeliness handicaps it or makes it much, like, more appealing to the general pop?
I think it's...
Like, are people wanting to go see a Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep newspaper movie about the 70s right now?
I don't think... Judging by how poorly received in terms of like audience Spotlight was,
Mm-hmm.
I think The Post is in the same boat.
Okay.
Like, it's a movie.
Well, it seems very cheaply made, so not in a bad way, but
everything feels like tightly controlled in a good way.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's not Ready Player One. He could make it because it was cheap and quick and easy to shoot. You know.
Mm-hmm. I think. I wish people would see it because the importance of a free press can't be understated, especially right now. And the movie shows like just how vindictive and clever Nixon was
Yeah.
And if this is
Clever.
yeah,
Okay.
well, if this current administration had like a fraction of Nixon's ability to like scheme,
Oh, I think Nixon's much cleverer than
Yeah.
what we've got going on right now. But
Absolutely.
that's interesting. Did you see Frost Nixon?
I heard good things, but I didn't.
I saw it over break. It was pretty okay. I liked it. Sam Rockwell's in it.
Sam Rockwell,
My dancing man.
it's a delight.
Oh, he was so good on Saturday Night Live.
The
You have
Tucci
to
skit
see it.
is so good.
Tucci Gang, Tucci Gang, Tucci Gang. He was in Hunger Games.
We have been on record for months, since the beginning of this podcast, really.
It's in the beginning of time.
Stanley Tucci's a delight.
I have a list of men who better not fuck up. Okay? And I'm gonna be really mad if they do.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Rockwell. Stanley Tucci. Who else?
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum.
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
That's a pretty solid 4.
Yeah.
The core 4.
There's some others, but I really don't
David
want some
Harbour.
people to... David Harbour! I do not, like... We just witnessed the downfall of Aziz, and, like, that was upsetting.
That was
John Mulaney! That was one I was thinking of. If John Mulaney goofs, I don't know what I would do. I would unstan him immediately, but I would be very upset.
I was very upset by the story that came out about Aziz. Especially because, like, he had been such a proponent of, like... He had seemed like...
Yeah, he's the guy who on Master of None is making really aware episodes about women feeling unsafe walking home from a bar, you know? And I thought I would, like, people were like, he's the woke bae. And I'm like, but, you know. He seemed knowledgeable about women's oppression.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, apparently, he's a creep. So. There's this, can I just say, I'm on the Circle Cinema Facebook group, and there's this girl, I have no idea who she is, but she, like, constantly is defending, like, James Franco and Aziz Ansari and, like, posting, like, articles, like, discrediting their accusers and shit. And I'm just like, why is the film community so up its own ass? Like, who cares? What did James Franco do for you? Calm down.
This is a problem of, like, the modern left. Like, we're all so ready to cannibalize one another, and we can't seem to get on the same page.
I don't know.
Like, we should be. I think we should be, like, we should all agree that, like, sexual assault of any kind is beyond horrendous.
I don't know if it's the modern left. I think just Me Too has brought out a bunch of people who, I don't know, care more about standing a celebrity in their films than women's safety, which I don't care for. Like, really, like, I love Christian Slater to death. I know he's a wife beater, and that's really, like, something hard for me to square, but I acknowledge it, you know? Like, I love his movies, is what I'm saying.
I feel the same way about Gary Oldman. Like, he's a fantastic, respected actor, but his, like, recent racist remarks and his history as a wife, as a domestic abuser, is very hard to grapple with.
Michael Fassbender. And I think it's just, like, so telling who gets called out. You know? Because if I know that Michael Fassbender, like, is an abuser, other people do. I'm nobody. If I know this shit, everybody knows this shit, you know? Like, and it's so telling of who has the, you know, internal power, or who can discredit people, you know? Yeah. Anyway, we were talking about the Post. I hope Bob Odenkirk's not a creep. I know David Cross is a little bit of a racist, which sucks because he's married to Amber Tamblyn, who's like a huge, like, Time's Up, amazing feminist thinker and writer now.
But yeah, the Post is great. It's shows the importance of why the public needs to be aware of things like, think about when Harvey Weinstein's story broke. This movie is great at showing the importance of an open press and honesty therein.
So, do you think in 40 years they're gonna make a movie about Ronan Farrow coming through on the Washington Post?
I mean, I hope so.
I love that dude. Yes, that sounds very good. I think I like once it comes out on like DVD and stuff, I'll probably give it a chance. I don't know. It didn't grab me from the. I don't think it was marketed well either.
It's
been very under the radar, which it should be like the film for our time. Yeah, you know.
I mean, I'm glad they're not. I'm glad they're not beating us over the head, with that. But the momentum that Three Billboards has.
Oh my god.
That's what the Post should have.
Yes. Let's just talk about it.
Let's go for it.
I liked Three Billboards when I saw it, but now I think.
Do you think your opinion has changed because of others or your own digestion?
I had mixed feelings about it from the get-go. I also saw it right after I saw Lady Bird, which definitely impacted it, but. Oof. I was always, when I saw it in theaters, I was like, this seems tone deaf for this moment in terms of racial politics. Because you haven't seen it, have you?
I have. I've been wanting to.
So, Sam Rockwell, love him to death. One of my favorite actors since I saw Confessions of a Dangerous Mind when I was like 13. He plays a stupid hick cop mama's boy in Missouri who it's not shown in the film, but he was recently got in trouble for torturing a black man that was in custody. Right off the bat, I'm not really feeling too sympathetic. Yeah. You know what I mean? The racial politics of the movie are really off. Like, Frances McDormand works for a black woman at, like, a gift shop. The black woman is, like, arrested for pot to kind of get revenge on Frances McDormand for causing so much trouble at the police station. So they're kind of, like, going after her friends, who just happen to be a black woman, you know, which is really heavy with implications.
Do you think people went into this movie looking for more meaning than it actually has?
Yes. For sure. Because I think the meaning of the movie is there is no meaning.
Because that seems to be the director's, Martin McDowell's kind of go-to.
Well, and it's really compelling. I think Frances McDormand is an amazing actress. Her own narrative with her ex-husband was that he beat her and then they got a divorce, and now that guy is dating his John Hawkes, who I love. He's a fantastic actor. He's dating like a 20-year-old, and the 20-year-old sees him attack Frances McDormand, has no reaction. Frances McDormand kind of brushes that off. I'm like, that's not realistic. That's an incredibly odd, kind of glossed over, not acknowledged portrayal of domestic abuse in a way that it doesn't seem to have an effect on either her or the new girlfriend who's dating and in love with this man who she's watching beat his ex-wife. And then, Sam Rockwell gets a redemption arc, which I think it's well earned in the movie, but I'm not in the mood to feel good for a cop who beats black people for fun.
Do you mean redemption by, like, he changed?
He does. He goes, Woody Harrelson kills himself because he has, like, severe cancer. Yeah. So he kills himself, so he leaves a letter for Sam Rockwell, and he's like, you gotta quit acting like a fucking idiot. You gotta do the right thing. It's easier to do the right thing. Like, you know, like, all this. And they flash back to Frances McDormand, like, the night her daughter was raped and killed. And she's like, you can't go out tonight, blah, 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 it's dangerous. And her daughter's giving her lip and everything. She's like, okay, I hope you get raped tonight. Which is you would never say that to your child.
I mean,
And I understand it makes it all the more tragic and it makes her have guilt. You'd never say that to your child. I don't care.
I mean, I wouldn't, but some parents would.
I hope you get raped tonight. I don't know. It's just, but it's so like edgy and real. I'm using air quotes in a way that is so self-conscious that I think it eschews reality in that way. Also, so Sam Rockwell kind of goes through his own thing. He overhears this guy at a bar say how he raped this woman and then lit her on fire, which is exactly what happened to Frances McDormand's kid. So he gets to do a fight with this guy. He purposefully scratches him and gets his DNA. So,
this is very clever.
Yes. It's not that guy. Turns out it's not that guy. So at the end of the movie, Sam Rockwell is beat to hell because he's, been in a fight with this guy. He got burned when Frances McDormand, burned down the police station. But, he calls her and he's like, I know where this guy lives. He's not your rapist, but he's a rapist. So they go and, get in the car. And are like, are we gonna kill him? And she's like, we'll figure that out when we get there. So it's very much like there's no justice. There's no reason for anything. All you can do, I guess, is go kill rapists if you want. But it's so
nihilistic.
It really is. And in a way that In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths wasn't. The deaths in Bruges...
In Bruges felt very nihilistic to me.
But there was meaning behind it. Like when...
Brendan Gleeson's character.
Brendan Gleeson sacrifices himself to warn his best friend that he's going to be killed. It's very... There's...
I'll agree.
Reasoning and empathy in the characters, if not the film.
There was some heart in the nihilism.
Yeah, definitely. And Seven Psychopaths, all the characters were extremely well crafted, really funny, had a lot of heart, cared about each other. Their deaths felt weighty and I cared that they died. And I don't know, it's just a really odd move for Martin McDonagh. And genuinely, I don't think he should write about the American heartland. Sorry, bro. You're from Dublin. I don't know if you should be tackling American rural race relations in Missouri, dude. Sorry. But I don't know. Watch Martin McDonagh's other movies. I'm upset that Three Billboards has gotten so much.
I think
it won the Golden Globe.
I think The Post is a good alternative to the nihilistic anger of Three Billboards, because The Post is very angry, but it's also hopeful.
Yes.
And it feels earned, and it shows that history does have a sense of justice.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas Three Billboards just feels kind of like... It's very people behaving terribly in a vacuum. And trying to make sense of that. Which can be so compelling.
Yeah.
But
I think Three Billboards has such momentum because people have unfortunately tied it to the Me Too
which I
movement.
Think gives a really it shows a complete lack of understanding of the movie.
Yeah.
Because that may be, the plot of it.
Because the movie is scorched earth.
Yes. Yeah.
And no healthy movement is scorched earth.
I can see how people would associate Me Too with Three Billboards and Time's Up and all that, but that movie's not about that girl dying.
Right.
It's
Frances McDormand's character.
Yeah, but it's the rape is really so third or fourth build. You know what I mean? Not to compare it to, casting or whatever, but it's not the most important thing in that movie. Anyway, The Post. We went off about Three Billboards for about 20 minutes, but anyway.
Anyway, those are my recommendations. Oxenfree and The Post.
I don't know. When you say Oxenfree, I think Ollie Ollie Oxenfree,
yep.
where you're
which
chasing
is
each other.
the Conjuring game, yeah.
Yes.
I see your direction.
Yeah.
All right. You have a big recommendation this week.
I'm going to wait till the end to do that one. So one of my recommendations, I read it over winter break and it was so good. Guys, I don't read books. I really don't, and it sucks. But this year I read some good ones. And I went home and my parents had a copy of Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. And I read it in about a week. It's
I
like
love Terry
400
Pratchett.
words, 400 pages, 400 pages long. I read it in a week, which was a big deal for me. So good. So it's being adapted into an Amazon series that's going to come out either this year or next year, starring Michael Sheen and David Tennant, and it's going to be wonderful. So, Good Omens is about a angel named Aziraphale, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and then a demon named Crowley, and they've been best friends for like since the beginning of time. They were both in the Garden of Eden together.
Aww.
Crowley was the snake. So they just kind of like do their thing, and it's very much kind of an exploration of like human free will and religion, and because Aziraphale's an angel and Crowley's a demon, but they work together because it's easier, you know, than just being enemies, and they kind of like they have an agreement where one kind of sows his good oats and the other one kind of causes trouble, but they overlook each other kind of, so they're good friends. And but it's all about Crowley kind of is tasked with doing a baby swap at like a hospital in the early 90s, because one of them is Satan, like the Antichrist. And the baby swap goes wrong, of course, because the satanic nuns are just dumb. And so the baby that was raised by Satanists to become the Antichrist is a normal child. And so the Antichrist, when he's 11, and like it starts on like Tuesday and the end of the world is Saturday. So like the Antichrist is 11 and he was raised by the most normal British family on earth. And so it really is kind of like nature versus nurture kind of a thing. And so they have to get to the Antichrist before people in hell figure out that they messed up, and people in heaven. And it's all about like, if you could prevent the apocalypse or like the giant battle between heaven and hell, like no one wants to prevent it. And Crowley and Aziraphale are like, I kind of like Earth, you know, like, like I can like drive my Bentley and drink coffee and read books, and it's great, and I don't think we need to do this.
I like that.
But it's so cool. There's a witch named Anathema Device, which is the stupidest name ever, and she has her great grandmother's book of prophecies, and she knows everything that's going to happen, and so she's there to like ensure that like, you know, everything goes right. And then there's the witch finder generals, who are the guys from the 1600 who would go find witches, and there's like the new recruit who's like a young dude who knows nothing. The four horse people of the apocalypse. War is like a arms dealer / journalist. She's a beautiful lady with long red hair, and she causes fights everywhere she goes. There's pollution and famine, who is a guy who like creates diet fads and like food that has no nutritional value, so you'll get fat but also starve to death. Like it's just a really funny, amazing satire, and it's really actually very beautiful at the end. It's so funny.
I've read a couple books by Terry Pratchett, and I just love his sense of like satire.
Yes,
like his humor is great, but a lot of people I feel like don't realize that you can be funny and angry at the same time.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
Terry Pratchett was very angry about injustice in the world, and some of my favorite characters are the City Watch in the series, because they subvert the trope of, like, the City Watch are just kind of like characters that get killed by like their typical fantasy hero.
Okay.
But like the main character, Sam Vines, the lead of the Watch, he's the type of man who, like, in one book he thinks about how people who say the innocent have nothing to fear if they're innocent, that's a line that where if the innocent hear that, they should worry. And he talks a lot about like power structure, about how the innocent, usually are punished by those in power.
Yeah. There's a real sense of, like, critiquing, you know, warmongering and violence and politics and, you know, destruction of the environment. Because Adam, the Antichrist, kind of learns about all this stuff, and he's like, that's wrong, why are they killing the whales, we should save the whales. And then all the whales in the, like, ocean become gigantic and start eating boats and shit. Like, because he's
I'm
like
down for that.
impacting the greater thing. And yeah, so it's really about, like, having faith in people to do the right thing, or whether or not it's so corrupt that we need to just wipe the slate clean, or whether there can really be good without evil. Like, how boring would that be?
I need to borrow this.
It's very good. So Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett.
The casting.
Oh, the casting's so good. I read it after I learned that, so I definitely, like, had those two in mind, which is so cool. Also, Crowley is, like, wife goals or life goals, buddy.
Who plays who?
David Tennant is Crowley, the demon.
Oh, man.
So he like, dresses like how I want to dress, like, lots of, like, leather jackets and tight pants.
So basically, he's a version of the Purple Man that you can root for, finally.
He's a very good demon. He's really cool and nice and chill, and he drives a Bentley from 1928 that you don't need to put gas in it. It cannot be, you know, dented. It's super cool.
Very handy.
He always wears sunglasses no matter what, until at one point in the book he takes off his sunglasses and he has, like, yellow, like, slitted eyes.
Sounds about right.
And then Michael Sheen is, like, this very fussy, like, bookshop owner in bow ties, and he's blonde and wears this sweater and stuff like that. So it's gonna be
That sounds
great.
delightful.
It's gonna be perfect. It was one of the best books I read in a long time. Second personal pick. Our personal picks are going, like, almost as long, if not longer, than Shape of Water.
We have a lot. This is we have a lot to get back into routine.
So my favorite thing, it jumped to the top 5 of all-time favorite things over winter break. It came out on January 5th, 2018 on Netflix, and I watched it on January 5th, all of it. It is an 8-episode British series called The End of the Fucking World, and the episodes are 20 minutes each, so it is less than 3 hours long. I'm not going to invite Wyeth to speak because he's wrong, because he doesn't like it. Okay.
I'm going to speak.
All right. Anyway, just keep in mind that I am correct. Why are you booing me? I'm right. Anyway. So it is a show that combines some of my favorite things, which is a angsty teen romance, cross-country crime sprees, murder, psychopaths, or maybe not, lesbian cops.
Who are the best part about
I
the
love
show.
them. Oh my gosh. So it's a show about James and Alyssa, and they're both 17, 18. James he thinks he's a psychopath to the point where he kills animals a lot, and he's very quiet and reserved, and he doesn't really feel human emotions. And there's Alyssa, who is kind of the opposite, who is so big and, like, so emotional and
self-destructive.
Yes, to the point where it's, like, really upsetting. Like, she just says whatever she wants to say. She's very angry all the time. She can't control her emotions, which I think is very, like, is a great dynamic for me as someone who has emotional management issues. Like, I've tried to, like, I have mental health issues that make me feel very big inside, and that's kind of scary and scares people, so I tried to be very cool and have no emotions for a long time. So I mean, I feel it, but so they kind of come together. She's kind of desperate for affection because she her mom married another guy who's creepy and kind of wants to get in her pants. And they have twins who they only care about the twins now, the babies, and they really ignore her. They don't care what's happening with her at all. So she goes to him and she's like, I think I could fall in love with James. And he's like, I think she could be interesting to kill. But of course she doesn't know that. So we're hearing both of their inner monologues. So they kind of get together, and then decide one day, well, Alyssa's like, I'm done with this, we're gonna run away. Okay? And throughout the first, like, 4 or 5 episodes, you're like, James keeps, like, almost killing her. Which is really upsetting, but also very funny. It's a super dark comedy. But, so they run away, they steal his dad's car, they punch the dad in the face. And so they're kind of...
Dad's, like, the nicest guy ever.
Well, I don't know. He doesn't understand his kid.
He tries.
I know, but I think he hasn't dealt with... Where did you get to?
I got through
died?
4 episodes.
So his mom...
And then I read the rest of the online.
So when James was, like, 6, his mom, like, killed herself in front of him. So that was really kind of the seed of him being so, like,
emotionally dead, yeah.
Stunted. And so the dad never really dealt with that, so he doesn't really feel anything connected to his dad because they're both really kind of lost after that. So they go on this kind of cross-country spree. They break into a house. They start actually liking each other because at first it was just kind of like, well, you're here and you're here. Let's just do whatever. They break into a house. The guy who lives there comes home. James finds that he has a bunch of bleach and video of people being tortured and killed and raped.
All women, yeah.
This guy is
a true serial killer.
A serial killer. And so James has to kill him to save Alyssa because she's about to get attacked and raped. And so James is like, I don't think I'm a psychopath. Nope, I didn't like that. I don't like that at all. And throws up. And yeah, so now they have a murder on their hands, all this stuff. And it really, it has a banging soundtrack. But kind of the point to me is her learning to kind of care for another person in a way that she's not just taking all the time and just wants attention and wants affection, and him learning that he's really not so emotionally stunted and dead and that he can care for another person, to the point where at the end he dies for her.
It's left open at the end.
There is a gunshot, and then it cuts. But I don't think there's going to be a season 2. There's been no announcement yet. Like, there is... I would rather there not be. Because I'm like, oh, that completes it. He starts out, he's incredibly closed it off to everything, and she kind of drags him out and makes him realize that, like, yeah, it would be worth it to sacrifice myself for another person. But I love it because it's very much Natural Born Killers meets Heathers meets True Romance, which are also my favorite movie. Badlands. It was like Bonnie and Clyde.
Badlands by way of Kick-Ass.
Yes, that's true. I love that dynamic. It even really kind of does an homage to True Romance because they get to a train station and she cuts his hair and he makes her blonde and he buys like a Hawaiian shirt that looks a lot like the one that Christian Slater wears in True Romance. But it's oddly sweet. It makes me really care about these two incredibly fucked up kids. And I think it also, Wyeth is giving me some real, like, eyebrow furrowed looks, but I don't care. Also, as a teen, and this is just, like, a glimpse into my psyche, but I saw American Beauty very early, so my dream boy as a teen was, like, kind of a fucked up, like, quiet loner who probably had mental health problems. And I was like, yes, I would be the only person to understand him. Yes. And then, like, it would be so deep and romantic and all that. So this kind of, like... hits on those points, but I realize now that I was the one with mental health problems who wore leather jackets, so I was my dream boy the whole time. Like, it's great. I really self-realized in that way. But it's just, I love it. It immediately jumped to, like, number 3 of all time. My favorite things.
You were this was your leftovers for me. Okay.
So, as in, like, you don't get it at all, but you let me talk about it on the podcast?
Al and I watched the first 4 episodes and did not get into it.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
It's very, very violent, very, like, asking you to empathize with these kids who are very unlikable.
Like, objectively, it's well made, it's very well acted. Those kids are great.
Oh, I love those those kids.
But subjectively, like, seeing people indulge their self-destructive tendencies is something I usually hate watching.
Really?
Like, Crazy Ex stresses me out so much.
That's interesting, because I feel like I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I watch Always Sunny and stuff like that and Crazy Ex, because I'm like, this is... I think a lot of it has to do with my struggles with mental health. And just, like, here is a space, it may be on a television, where, like, you don't have to regulate your behavior. You know, and it shows the consequences and all that, but I'm so concerned all the time about being too much, or like saying something kind of out there, or like acting too excited about something, or whatever, or just like doing something that like may not be considered like 100% like acceptable, I guess, just because it might reflect like my mental state or whatever.
And like,
so it's kind of cathartic, you know, to like see that happen.
And so, like, just seeing kids has always been a real sensitive issue for me, because I've always loved working with kids. Like, I care about kids, and just seeing young kids being hurt by the world and like indulging their self-destruction, just, I was like, this is not a thing I'm comfortable going with.
That makes sense. It can be upsetting, because they really like, I was talking to my mom about it. Also, I feel really bad, because she called me. She was like, I'm into it. I hate Alyssa. And then she was like texting me the whole time. And then at the end, she called me and she was crying. She was, is he dead? I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry. But, like, those kids are so hard to like, but in ways that I'm like, this is society failing them. Like, this is their parents failing them and not being recognized as having, you know, mental illness, and not being recognized as like needing bad parenting, you know, all of that like coming together. And like, it's so sad, because like up until like they did terrible things and it just kept escalating and all that, but you could have explained to someone that you broke into someone's house and then they were attacking your girlfriend, and then you had to kill them in self-defense. But they just make decisions where they're like, nope, we gotta run, we cannot, you know, like,
it's so stressful, and it's this, and to me it's kind of nihilistic. It's the nihilism that I can't handle, and that it felt like the odds were unfairly stacked
against them,
against kids.
Yeah.
And that feels just so unfair.
That's true. I think it's nihilistic, but in a way where it's like, no one's gonna be there for us, so we're gonna be there for ourselves, for each other, and we're gonna kind of like find meaning in each other and help each other heal from this. And in the end is very upsetting, but it's kind of like to the point where they heal each other and like help each other overcome things. I don't know. I looked at it as like kind of more like, and I think it's a really bad trend in film and TV to be like, someone can heal your mental illness, which I don't think is possible, and it's certainly a bad vibe to send out. But it is it's a deeply romantic show in that way, where it's like you can like learn to care about other people, even if you've been really fucked up like, by your parents and your mom's suicide and all that stuff.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it, but the lesbian cops deserve their own show. Love the lesbian
cops. Oh my god, Yara Greyjoy.
Oh my god.
She's great. It was so weird seeing her not as like such a really scary, intense like boat general, you know?
I love Yara in Game of Thrones. I love her.
She's a little too intense for me on Game of Thrones.
I'm okay with the bad girl.
But she's super like, she's like has a huge crush on her lesbian cop partner. Like they obviously slept together, and the other one's like, I don't want to do this, and she's like, oh, okay,
we'll talk about it later.
And she's the one who's like, these kids need help, I'm gonna go find them first and try to convince them that like things could be
they
okay.
die?
Who?
The lesbian cops. Okay, good.
They knock out Yara Greyjoy, I think, because they make this really stupid decision where she's like, just come with me right now. It'll be fine. We'll figure all this out. Okay? And Alyssa, who I think is the more idealistic in a really upsetting way.
Mhm.
She's like, but would we be together in juvie or whatever? Because he turns 18 towards the end.
Okay.
So he could be tried as
Charged.
an adult. And she's like, of course you wouldn't be together. And she's like, all right, I can't do it then.
Yep, that's
Which
about
is
what
like-
I expect.
But it's such a 16-year-old thing to think.
Okay,
you
but
know?
going back to Lesbian Cops.
Okay.
Just like the cops in What We Do in the Shadows are getting a spin-off show, I want a spin-off show with these cops.
Oh my god. Okay. Just
A happier show.
yeah,
please.
because I don't know.
Because
just dealing with the death of James, filling out paperwork.
something like that. Working through the relationship.
Yeah, I love when Yara interrupts her date. She's like, "What are you doing? Go away, please don't. I'm not on the clock right now." But I think it definitely is a acquired taste, that show. But
It at multiple points when Al and I were watching, we looked at each other like, this just checked Lynn's box.
there are many boxes checked, immediately on that show. If anything, if you like doo-wop music and 50s Americana music, check out the Spotify playlist.
I think they could have spaced out their songs. It felt like a song was happening every 2 minutes.
I loved it.
They were great choices, but since each episode was 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm getting song whiplash.
That's true. I think it was very much this isn't real. This is kind of their vision of being in a movie. Because at one point they're like, is the car going to explode? No, this isn't a film. If this was a film, we would be American. So it's kind of them trying to live out this kind of Bonnie and Clyde natural born killers fantasy, and it's not going to work out. But yeah. I love the scene where they're dancing to Hank Williams, and he's like, I don't want to dance. And she's like, I'll close my eyes. And you just close your eyes. It's very sweet.
That was a sweet scene.
They're so sweet. I'm like, this little murderous psychopath is my son, and I want to take care of him.
And then
Okay?
she proceeds to perform oral on him.
I mean, it's weird because in the Netflix synopsis, it's like, he's a psychopath, she's a nymphomaniac. She's not a nymphomaniac, she's a virgin. She's trying to act older.
They are both attracted to things they think they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks that sex will solve her problems.
It'll make her independent and grown up where she won't have to worry about...
And he thinks that violence is his destiny.
Yeah. And it's neither of them. They don't have sex in the show, which I loved.
Oh, that's good.
At the very end, her dad kind of betrays him and calls the cops.
Surprise.
And they're sleeping on the beach. And they're, they start to, get physical and everything. And she's like, let's just do it tomorrow. And there is no tomorrow, obviously. But it's very much we're trying to be so much older than we are. But we don't need that to have this, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it's very much there's always going to be another time to grow up. Oh, God! Yeah, I love this show. I understand that you don't. But when we were texting, you were just like, don't like it. I'm like, God, okay.
And then you're like, Al, back me up. It's great. And then Al's like, eh.
Anyway, it's just for me. They made it just for me.
I'm honored that they did that for me. Well, I'm not honored. You should be honored.
I am honored. Anything else?
Nope. Well...
What are we doing next week? We've really deviated from the path.
Who knows what we'll do next week? We'll work it out.
Yeah. We
seem to be doing fine without a plan.
Go by the seat of our pants.
Just wing it, as we've always done.
Well, we went pretty hard on that schedule for a while.
We did well.
We were, I know what we want to watch. Super Dark Times.
I've been thinking about that a lot.
We should watch that.
Deal.
All right. At some point.
Somehow.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well,
thanks for listening.
Thanks for putting up with us each week.
Our rambling ass nonsense. 2
2
hours.
That's impressive.
That's crazy. All right.
Till next time.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
he behaved like a man demented, obsessed, utterly lost.